G'day, today we're talking about the Can Am Outlander G2s. This is a 2015 model, Can Am Outlander 500 XT. Also, depends on where you pull up the specs. If you do a VIN number search on this one, it'll either tell you it's a 500 DPS or a 500 XT. DPS, the power steering. So this has the electronic power steering on it. And this is something we're rebuilding at the moment. I've done a couple of these. This one here is kind of a little bit a good example of why some people don't like Can Ams in Australia. So in Australia, we're on a farm. This is a farm quad. We bought this pretty cheaply, needed a bit of work done, paid about $1,500 for it. It's only done 500 hours, so it hasn't done a lot of hours, but the maintenance here, it hasn't been encompassing enough. So a lot of people, if they've run quads on their farms for a long time, they might have run like Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, solid rear end, 2 springs with a solid rear end. Very simple, change the oil over in the engine, and there's not really much that can go wrong. It's pretty simple. And I remember we used to run Polaris quads. In Australia now, all the rules have changed, and all those major manufacturers, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda, Can Am, Polaris, none of them sell quads in Australia because of the new quad regulations. Now it's all Chinese, like Segway, the Taiwanese built Kimcos, things like that are now what people buy because they're the only options, or people are looking for these used. But when we used to run Polaris, I remember a lot of people say, oh, Polaris, yeah, they're good quads, but the suspension's too complicated and it breaks down. And indeed, if you had a simple setup on your old quad, it was just solid rear axle, 2 springs holding it up basically, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, pretty simple. Not a whole lot to go along. The ride's not great, but it's nice and simple. Whereas with the Polarises I used to run, the Can Am here, you've got CV joints, you've got CV boots, you've got suspension arms that you've got to deal with, you've got a heap more bushes, you've got grease points. And if you don't maintain that, that's going to come and bite you and you're going to need to rebuild it. And this is a good example. So this thing seems to have pretty good mechanical service history. So engine, oil, the air filter, fine. But everything else, pretty much nothing else has been touched. And these things will punish you a bit if you try and operate like that. So we're going to go through this from front to back. This is a good example of things that you might find if you're looking to buy one. What are some issues you might come across? How hard is it to replace it? How difficult is it to manage? So we'll just start from the front and go backwards. This one we've pretty much rebuilt from front to back. The only thing we haven't touched too much, the engine seems sound, transmission seems sound. We've left that alone largely, but pretty much everything else has been touched in a minor or a major way. So in the front suspension, you've got your A-arms, top and bottom, which go to hold your your wheel hub, which is where your CV goes, and you've got bushes top and bottom. So where it attaches to the bike, rubber bush, steel bush goes through it, and it's got a grease point. Now I won't rewrite this on the whole bike, but there's grease points on this thing everywhere. That's just a feature of the quad. And when we took all the grease nipples off to clean them up, no grease in them. So it appears almost certain this thing's never seen a grease gun. It's seen a grease gun now. We've replaced all the grease nipples and all the grease points, bushes, bearings and ball joints, all that's replaced. It's been greased now, but it doesn't seem like it's ever been greased. Certainly hasn't been, if it has, when it was sold, doesn't look like it's been touched since. And that's why there's been some premature wear here. There's some things that we've replaced that you would expect at 500 hours. There's some things you wouldn't. But this thing just hasn't, it just hasn't been maintained to that point. So lots of grease points. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Just occasionally you need to check your grease, check your service interval in the book and give it a grease. So you've got the bushes top and bottom. Then you're going into your ball joints, which are going to hold your hub on. Ball joints, wearable part. The boots were cracked on the ball joints, so we replaced them top and bottom all the way around. You're going to have a similar setup. It's not the same. You've got a swing arm at the back. It's not the arms on the front. You've got a swing arm on the back, but you've still got, you've got those ball joints on the front that you've got to replace. if the boots crack, grease leaks out of them. So we've replaced all of that. You've got a wheel bearing, wearable part, wheel bearing, pretty easy to teach it, jack it up, make sure all your bolts are tight, your hub nuts tight, give your wheel a wobble, dunk, 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 dunk. Okay, wheel bearing's likely shot. While we were in there, the wheel bearings were actually okay, but we've dropped them out anyway just while we're there so we don't have to go back, and it means everything's been done. Wheel bearing's not a huge cost, so why not just do it while you're there? So wheel bearing's been done, ball joint's been done, bush has been done. You've got a front prop shaft, you've got a grease nipple on your on that. In this case it's fine. There's a wear ring. That's similar on the prop shaft, that's the rear prop shaft, that's not the front, but you have a wear ring on that. Watch for the other video if you want to know how to get it off, you just pull it off, not a big deal. But it has a wear ring and it'll leak where it goes into your front differential if that wear ring goes. But otherwise pretty simple there to maintain your front prop shaft. Front prop shaft on this one is okay, so we've largely left that intact. You've got an interval on your differential, like any differential. Drain your diff oil, fill it up again. Specs in the book, not too complicated. Front diff oil, we've drained that and we've refilled it. Old diff oil looked old, should have been probably done earlier. But anyway, it's done now. Other things on the front, brakes. Brakes just should be, change your fluid, bleed your brakes. Now, when you're bleeding your brakes, there's 3 bleed points. Well, 3 kind of sets of bleed points. Obviously, each caliper has a bleeder. So you've got a bleeder on your caliper, then you've got a bleeder on the rear caliper when you're doing the rear brakes, and then there's one in the center as well. It's just under the seat. Take the cover off, and you'll on the what's that? As you look for on the right-hand side, take the cover off, you'll see it. It's just down in there. And there's a center bleed point, and there is a sequence that you need to use in terms to bleed your brakes and get your front and rear brakes working together. In this one, it hasn't been, again, engine oil, that seems to be all that's been touched on the thing, and the front brakes and the rear brakes should have had their calipers replaced. On the front brakes, it got so dramatic that when we pulled them off, there was no brakes on this thing when we bought it, no brakes at all. And when we pulled the caliper off, the piston fell out, and there was like this tiny little sliver of tin, which was the steel backing on the brake pad. So brake pad wears down, replace your pad. Not a big deal. Bleed your brakes, get riding again. The previous owner had run the brakes all the way down, had steel on steel, not content on that, still continued to wear the pad down until the piston pushed all the way out, lost all the brake fluid, and when we dropped the brake caliper, piston fell out, and there was crap and debris and shit all behind the piston. So easy, you can rebuild them. All Balls Racing sells, and other brands sell rebuild kits for them. I didn't bother doing that, just fitted a new set of calipers. New set of calipers, about $200, so for that price, I didn't really feel like rebuilding them. And if you wanted to do an eBay special, you can find them on Amazon and eBay. A set of 3 calipers, there's 2 on the front, 1 on the back, and you can find that for like $100. As for quality, meh, I'll let you decide on that one. But anyway, you can do it that way if you want to. Brake disc just undoes, just bolts, take the brake disc off, new brake disc, caliper, bleed it, away you go. You shouldn't really, if you just maintain the thing properly, unless you've done like big hours and you've asked a lot of your brakes, shouldn't need to take that step, I don't think. But in this case, there's just been no maintenance on those brakes, ran them right out, and that's probably as bad as you'll see it. So new calipers on that, but realistically, if you're looking to buy one of these and you're going, oh geez, am I up for a new set of calipers? The brakes work, change your calipers, maintain your disc. Doesn't need to be something that you necessarily need to replace. Like if you're doing a lot of river crossings and stuff, you see one with a high mount radiator or something. This is all standard, the radiator's in here, but you can get an aftermarket kit from various places, and you can get one from Can Am, which mounts the radiator up here if you're doing a lot of mud and creek crossings and stuff. If you're doing that, yeah, it's probably going to be a bit harder on the brakes. But for this purpose, for what this thing's done, just driving around paddocks, if the brake pads were maintained, wouldn't have been a problem. Into the transmission, I've left the transmission alone. Rotax engines, they will look after you if you look after them, much like pretty much anything. But if you skip services and don't maintain it, you know, not changing your oil, not keeping your air filter clean and changed, you know, it will likely punish you. So service history is really important there. Rotax engines are good. I've seen them with very high hours and still running on the original engine. So this has done 500 hours, wouldn't expect to see any issues with it, it doesn't blow any smoke or anything. It's a V-twin, 2 spark plugs, you know, change your oil, keep it maintained, should be pretty right. Regarding transmission, this is where a few people complain about the Can-Ams and belts. Now Can-Am do sell a heavy duty belt, heavy duty belt kit for the transmission. So you can fit one of those, because some people will complain of smoking belts. Now, it depends what you're asking of it. If you're asking it to pull a lot, you know, you're on steep slopes, you know, going up really steep hills, your belt's worn, you smoke the belt, and you don't put it down into low range, then yeah, that's probably going to be a problem. In fact, with this one, I think when we were loading it to move it last time, putting it on the back of our flatbed, steep rise to get it up and onto the truck. And yeah, when we got it onto there, I was like, oh geez, we're going to smoke the belt, low range, pulled it up, no worries. But you can put a heavy duty belt on the CVT, and there are some people I know who still run Can-Ams. They said they're not sold anymore, but they're still running a small fleet of Can-Ams, and they, in their opinion, that's a bit of a mandatory thing that you want to fit to it. You want to put a heavy duty belt on it. So out of the transmission, prop shaft, again, that's your prop shaft. Wear ring on the front, your dust cover on the front, that goes into your differential. There's a wear ring on that, and that seals on your rear differential. So the prop shaft itself, you've got unis. The unis are going to need replacing. These have been replaced, greased up. Now, the grease nipple in here, you could put an angled grease nipple or a right angle or a 45, but I don't know how you get the nut tied up, done up, because there's a nut that attaches the prop shaft to your transmission and to your differential. There's a nut and a washer that goes in there. Now you could potentially, maybe you could have a right angle one. I don't see how you'd be able to get that in there and do the nut up. So I've just got a straight one, and when it's in situ in the quad, golly, that's nigh on impossible to get to your grease nipple. So you're going to grease that when it goes in, and that's pretty much the last time you're going to grease it, unless you take your differential out to try and grease your prop shaft. So that's a wearable item. You are going to change that over time. You are going to have to change your unis, but it's just a wearable part, is what it is. A lot of conversation around tail shaft phasing. Plenty of videos on that. Watch that on how to make sure that your tail shafts or your prop shaft, depending on what part of the world you're in, whether you're maintaining that in phase. I'm not going to cover that today. Some people make a big deal about it. I've never actually had a problem with it. Keep your prop shaft maintained, good unis in it. I've never had a problem, but some people will complain about that. Not a big deal for me. Into the differential, we might cover that last. Rear suspension. You've got swing arm, so swing arm, there's a swing arm, there's a swing arm. You've got bushes in there, you've got a bush there, wheel bearing at the back, same thing, your wheel bearings are wearable item, shock absorber, grease points, bushes, it's a different setup to the front. You've got a bush in here on the swing arm, bush at the front, grease points, big steel rod that goes through, that's what holds your swing arm on. CV joints front and rear, boots, but boots aren't going to be something like CV boots are not going to be something that's unique to this. It's just going to be something that you're going to have to deal with if you're running a quad bike unless you're running solid axle. CV boots are just going to be something that you're going to have to deal with, and sure, you're going to puncture a boot every now and again. The lesson on the CV boots, really, I'm not knocking Can-Am for this, because it's just a common thing with all quads I've had that run CV boots, even Gators, John Deere Gators with CV boots. is you just got to check them, and you got to check them regularly. And as soon as you get a puncture, pull the CV, replace the boot. You can get a tool which can, you cut the old CV boot off and you can stretch it over. So you don't have to take the whole thing out, but anyway, I've never done that. I just pull the CV and do it. It's annoying, it's bloody annoying. That's why you've got guards around it to try and protect sticks and stuff from flipping up and wrecking your CVs. If you're on a farm or something and you tear all those guards off, you probably want to put something back there to replace it, because CV joints have, it's a simple thing. It's not complex to fix, but it's just a pain in the backside. But it's no worse with this than anything else. So that is what it is. Now with the differential on this one, as you'll see, there's no back wheels on this. That's because the differential's out. And the differential has a fault. Where your pinion goes in, there's a needle bearing, and the pinion attaches to the prop shaft, and then at the other end it sits in a needle bearing and spins. And the word is that the way the needle bearing isn't, there's no way for the oil to get behind the needle bearing and keep it lubed. So the needle bearing has a habit of failing. You get a diff kit, you get a needle bearing with it, you can replace it. It's a bit of a bastard to pull it out, but that is a bit of a common problem as best as I can tell. In this one, the needle bearing went. The owner, like the front brakes, didn't do anything about it. So that pinion's been going clonk, 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 inside the diff housing. It's completely worn out. The needle bearing's just gone. Even the housing of the needle bearing's gone. And that pinion's been smashing around into the diff housing. It's shot, so it needs a new differential. There's nothing I can do about it. You could weld up the pinion, potentially put it on a lathe and grind it back. Potentially, I suppose you could do that. But in the housing's too far gone. It's not only eating out the pinion, the needle bearing, but it's actually eating out some of the housing. So if I did get the remnants of the needle bearing out of there and put a new needle bearing in, it's not going to sit in there. It's going to be loose, and then it's going to fail again. So there's a solution a proposed solution where you get a small drill and drill in from the differential housing into behind where the needle bearing sits, to let a little bit of gear oil go in there to try and keep that needle bearing lubricated, to try and make it last a longer period. There's a few videos on that. That is a little bit of a problem. Where I said the wearing, that's common, that wears out. You'll start to have and then you've got your seals. You've got two axle seals, same with the front diff. You've got two axle seals, and then you've got a seal where the prop shaft attaches. And if they go, differential will start leaking, and you've got to pull the diff and replace it. So none of it's really complex. The hardest job in fixing up the differential is the needle bearing. To get that out, that's the hardest part of the job. The rest of it, like even if you didn't have it, you should have a press. It's good, press things out even, press things out even, press things in even. But I've just knocked the bearings out of the old housing when we pulled it out. The housing's no good, but funnily enough, we've got some components in the differential that we'll be able to salvage in case we need to replace it again. But you can just knock the bearings out. It's really not a big deal. The good news is that we've bought a new differential for this from America, brand name aftermarket differential, and landed to my door $350. So not good that you've got to spend that money, but not the end of the world in terms of overall cost, because we'll get that in there and we'll have a brand new differential, and that should be fine. In terms of parts, expensive parts, the CVs are quite expensive in Australia, about $250 each, so $1,000 if you're going to replace all of them. Again, a CV boot's like $30, $25 to $35, something around there. So CV boots are cheap compared to a whole thing, but that's for a kit for both ends. But if you're buying $250 for a whole new CV, you've got to put all four of them in there, $1,000. Starts to change the equation a bit, starts to get a little bit more expensive. So that's expensive. Differential, about $350 we've paid. You can buy a whole new prop shaft, but the unis aren't that expensive. So all the parts that I've needed to replace on these things I've found quite easily obtainable. Lots of these sold in North America, so you can get them in from America as well. But Prices, including shipping, are generally pretty competitive just to get them in Australia. Filters are readily available in Australia. In terms of long term, would you buy one of these? So there's some things you want to look for, some things in terms of maintenance that you want to keep track of. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you're looking to buy one, you jack it up, you have a look at wiggle your wheels, grab those A-arms on the front of your suspension and move them. If they go tunk, 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 that means your bushes at the top are shot. Is your wheel bearing shot? Tunk, 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 tunk. What are your brake pads like? Is the diff? Have you got leaks coming out of the differential? Where in the differential is it? Is it the wearing? Is it the seal? Are your CV boots torn? You're going to have to replace them. Tyres, are the tyres all worn out? You're going to have to replace the tyres. Is it blowing smoke? If it's blowing smoke, I wouldn't buy it. I'd just walk away. You'd have to get it so cheap to warrant putting a new Rotax in it or to rebuild it. If that's beyond you, that's not going to be cheap. If the transmission has issues, I'd walk away. If it's smoking a belt, okay, that might not be a big deal if the belt's worn. In terms of hours, it's really going to depend on maintenance. Would I buy one with 1,000 hours on it? If it was pristine and the owner could show me some sort of evidence that they'd maintained it, then yes, I would. If it looked like this, and it had this sort of maintenance at 1,000 hours, I probably wouldn't touch it because there's just that. The only reason we bought this is because it wasn't very much, and the engine and the transmission seems pretty sound. It's just everything else is in a pretty advanced state of decay, and it was a good opportunity to do a rebuild with my son. So there was merit there. I quite like them. This thing, they've got heaps of, in terms of running around, heaps of power. The power steering's good. The power steering's adjustable. You've got low, medium, and high, which I like. They will pull quite a bit. Factory tow bar, you do need a special hitch. It'll fit like a Heyman Reese in Australia. We call them the standard Heyman Reese style tow point, but you need to have a hole in the tow point quite shallow, quite near. It's not very deep where it slots in. So if you just tried to pull the tow bar off your car and think, oh, that'll fit on this, it will fit in, but you'd have to drill an extra hole. But it does come with that, which is not unhelpful. But the power steering is good, power's good. They're a rocket ship, really, and someone's going to go, oh yeah, well the thousands of the 800s, they've got way more power than 500s. Not arguing with you there. I just haven't found this one, the 500s, I haven't found it really, in terms of running around the farm and doing stuff, haven't found it to lack power. In terms of plastics, this thing's never seen a day in the shed, I suspect, or very few, so the plastic has got, or it's probably been parked in an open bay shed more likely, so you can see where it's been parked when the sun's hit it and the plastic's faded. You can buff that up pretty well. All the mounts here are pretty good. Bull bars on their front tray. We've got the rear rack off at the back. It's got a rear storage compartment, which is not unhelpful if you're carrying things around. But the good thing about going through this project, it's been a while since I've worked on one of these, has been just the availability of parts. So if you were looking to buy one, particularly in Australia, if you came across one low hours or maybe, like this, 300 to 600 hours, might need a few things fixed on it. Well, there's no alternative in Can Am unless you go buy a Commander. If you buy a side-by-side, there's no alternative in quads in Australia now. So this is buying used is pretty much what you got. And the encouraging thing for me has been that all the parts have been really easy to track down. So I've been able to find all the parts, no worries, nice and simple, and they've been relatively cheap. And when I say relatively cheap, they're super cheap compared to my old John Deere Gator. If I had to do this sort of a rebuild on the John Deere Gator, it would have just cost me probably more than the Gator was worth. Whereas with this, even with the extensive work, replacing basically every bush, ball joint and bearing, it pretty much has not, it hasn't broken the bank, and I'm still under. I wanted to get this thing all fixed up and done for $1,500 bought. I wanted to get it all rebuilt and fixed up by $2,500 extra, so under $4,000, and I'm pretty much there now. I'm still a little bit under that. With the differential blew things a little bit. I didn't realise how bad that was going to be, and that's with a set of tyres. So parts have been quite cheap and they've been quite available. So that's been really good to see how cheap the parts are if you still want to buy them. Even though this thing, we're in 2025 yet now, This thing's 10 years old, and parts are still very available. Even in Australia, you can buy them from the US as well, but they're still readily available in Australia. And you can have them at your door if you order them online, or at your Can Am dealer can be useful as well, and you can have them quite quick. So not bad quads. This one will be going again soon once we get the differential into it, but it was an opportunity to go through it. I hope if you're looking to buy one, if you're considering the Can Am Outlander as a used quad, I hope this video was useful for you. Thanks for watching.